Hello everyone, I am Yogesh Patil. I got All India rank 231 last year, and related to that I got Indian Police Service last year in CSE 18. So today we are here to discuss 2019 mains papers, GS papers, and to analyze those papers. So I think these year's mains papers were somewhat analytical. They asked more analytical question this year as compared to any of the question in last year. Yes, the UPSC is always unpredictable. That's why we call it. I think I call it as unpredictable public service commission. So there were some questions which were very unconventional, and it took a lot of time in the exam to think on that question and to write that question. So especially the GS2 paper. In GS2 there were some more analytical question. The governance, especially the governance question, they were somewhat difficult, and there are very few questions they are asking based on the current affairs. As we used to see that they used to ask more question on the current affairs. They changed this pattern this year. More questions were based on the core concepts. As we can see in the GS2, many questions they asked on the core concepts like federalism, separation of power, and then they asked on the attorney general. Okay, so there were questions like this, and in GS3 also they asked very less question on the current affairs. So starting from the GS1, last time they asked 3 questions on the art and culture, but this time they have minimized it to only 1 question. One question they asked about the contribution of Central Asian and Greco-Bacterian element to Gandhara culture. It was somewhat simple question. Central Asian elements, we know that in the Kushan period, Central Asian elements came and integrated into the Gandhara culture. And then Gandhara culture moved to the Mathura and all that. So, and yes, last time they asked only 1 or 2 questions on the modern Indian history, but they asked 4 questions on modern Indian history this time. And these 4 questions they asked very analytical questions. Like in the question like, which were the other streams in the Gandhian era, or the question like how British complicated the process of transfer of the power to India. These questions you need thorough knowledge of the incidents happening at that time. You have to quote the particular facts, you have to quote the particular events to substantiate your answer. Like if you say the other thinking or other fields enriched in the Gandhian era, you have to quote the revolutionaries were there, then Swarajists were there, no Swarajists were there, then which were the other streams involved in the Indian independence movement in that period. Okay, you have to quote them. So these questions were somewhat analytical, and again from like 2-3 years they increased the number of the questions from the geography and the Indian society. They are asking at least 6 to 7 questions on Indian society and 6 to 7 questions on geography. The trend has continued in this paper also. Society questions, particularly the society question, they were somewhat difficult questions. Like there were again the some controversial question like cultural practices in the name of secularism. That question was controversial, but I think UPSC is trying to check your thinking, check your view, check your biasness. Then you have to give the middle path. You have to answer that question with mild views like the universal civil code, the essential religious practices. Your answer can surround that. So yes, GS1 was comparatively easy except 1 or 2 questions. So moving forward to GS2, GS2 again, as we can say, yes, I have said that GS2 was somewhat difficult. Around 10 to 15 questions, 10 to 13, 14 questions which were easy. And yes, international relation expected question. 1 question was on USA and 1 question on Japan. So they were comparatively easy. Yes, international relation were directly based on the current affair, but the other questions there were very few questions from the current affairs. They asked directly questions from the core concepts like separation of power. It was the first question itself. Then they asked about CAG, attorney general, then question related to parliament. Yes, parliament, we can see that the quality of the debate is decreasing, and then how can one parliament can contribute. Then again the fever of the election was there, so they asked 1 question about the RPA 1951. So yes, there was some expected question, but at the same time we can see that especially the governance question, they were somewhat difficult question. the question related to services, question on various service sectors, the question related to the welfare schemes and the neoliberal. These questions were somewhat complicated. To answer them, you have to know many facts, you have to know many government schemes and all that. You have to in exam hall I couldn't think more anything especially particular for those questions. I think they were somewhat simple questions, but I couldn't think many things particular. To address such type of question, you must be thorough with like second ARC or Sarkariya Commission or Punchi Commission. So these things you should read them, because these governance portion and other topics are mentioned in that. And I'll say for GS2, yes, focus on the core concepts, because the question will move around that. Yes, they are making more analytical and interlinking the concept. To address them, you should be thorough with the core concept, the constitutional articles. Like in the separation of power, you could have mentioned the Ram Javaya judgment of the Supreme Court or Indira Gandhi judgment. So in these kind of judgments, you have to write to substantiate your answer. So when you are writing the GS2 paper, you should be thorough with the constitutional articles, Supreme Court judgments and other facts. Moving forward to GS3, again GS3 paper was a bit conventional. They asked some 4 questions of security, 2 questions of disaster management, 2 questions of science and tech, 2 questions related to environment, and 10 questions related to economics and agriculture. The question of the economics, again, what they did, interlink the inclusive growth with inclusivity and sustainability. To show the direct relation, you have to substantiate with your answers how inclusive growth will lead to sustainability. You have to you can give the example how inclusive growth, the protection of the environment and using the resources, then cyclical economy. These things you can mention. Then security questions were a bit easy. They asked direct from the current affairs, the changes in the NIA Act and UPA Act. They asked about that. And again, there was this question related to the Myanmar security issues on the India-Myanmar border. And one question they asked, yes, again, as we can expect 1 or 2 questions difficult. So they asked this cyber dome. Many people didn't know the cyber dome, what the cyber dome is. So these things will be there in every paper. 1 or 2 questions will be difficult every time. It depends on your knowledge, reading and all that. Then the question of the agriculture, again, there was some particular question of the agriculture, like National Watershed Project. They are asking very particular question. To address them, you need knowledge of them. But it is again difficult to read everything. So National Watershed, you should have a rough idea and how the National Watershed Project has helped India. So you have to just analyze it. Then other question was, yes, this question related to what was that question? The public expenditure management is a challenge to the government of India in the context of budget making during the post-liberalization period. So again, this question was somewhat difficult. You have to substantiate your answer with the facts after the post-liberalization. How was it earlier, and after that you have to mention the FRBM Act is there, inflation, then GDP, FDI, all those things which has happened after the post-liberalization. So these things you have to mention. Then yes, there was this one particular question related to vulnerability in disaster management. To address that question, again, it was somewhat difficult question. So they are making things somewhat tougher and somewhat analytical. To address them, you have to be more precise in your answer, more facts, more substantiation with the help of examples, with the help of data, facts and incidents. You have to mention them. Then science and tech question, again, it is always unpredictable to related to science and tech question. They ask one question on this traditional knowledge, protection of the traditional knowledge, which is related to the IPR, intellectual property rights. One question they ask about this Sir M. Vishweswaraya and Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. I was fortunate that Sir M. Vishweswaraya is our alumni from College of Engineering, Pune, so I could write that question. yes, these type of question will come, but you cannot predict the question of the science and technology. But again, the agriculture question and the economic question, which were somewhat easier, but I'll say the paper was somewhat tougher than the last year. Now the marking, we have to see how much marks they will allot. And again, talking about ethics was, yes, simple paper like last year, but I will say the particular portion of the case studies. If we talk about the case studies, one or two case studies were something different. Like they asked about politicization of the bureaucracy and the consequences of it. Then we have to write some facts, some data, some incidences, like we can quote the 2G spectrum issue. In such type of question, people were a bit confused to write these case studies. And again, there was this case study related to bona fide mistakes of the civil servant, and what can be done, how this will affect the governance, and what should be the steps, what can be the steps taken. But in these type of question, generally take the constitutional view. You can mention the article 310, article 311, there is protection given to the civil servants, and also you can mention about the Lokpal, you can mention about this protection of the prevention of the corruption act. These you can mention. And other question, especially the question which is quotation based questions, which are asked from the thinkers views, they, like question number 6, I think 6 or 7 was there. It was somewhat difficult, and except that ethics paper was also good. But what can we learn from these type of questions which they have asked in these years? I have given mains of last year and mains of this year. So I can say with guarantee that they are making things more analytical, as we have seen in the prelims also. Like they used to ask more facts earlier, but they are asking more conceptual based question, especially from the economics area, especially from the polity area. They are asking more concept based question, and this thing has also continued in the mains also. They are asking concept based question. If you are not thorough with your concepts, then you are unable to write those questions. So what you can do, whatever is there in the syllabus, let's say there is a center state relation, make 1-page notes on it. If you are reading only current affairs material of any class, that won't suffice. To address such type of question, you have to read the concepts, you should be thorough with them, then interlink your knowledge with the current affairs. So that will be more helpful. In the GS3, like any aspirant would have prepared the GST, right? GST they ask. I prepared especially on the GST and insolvency and bankruptcy code. Fortunately, they asked GST as their first question, so I was very prepared about it. Then these type of questions which are very hot in news, and you have to prepare them, which are very important for our country. GST is there, agriculture, integrated farming is there. These type of questions they will ask. Then you can't predict them. Yes, many people say that it is everything cannot be predicted. Yes, cannot be predicted. As I have already said, UPSC is unpredictable. But by some knowledge, by some logic, you can draw a line. You can draw a line, and you can limit your preparation to that. So try to do that, and don't rely on one particular current affairs source. Try to read from the multiple sources, interlink your knowledge, interlink the concepts, and at the same time, what I did, I also gave mains last year and this year. What difference I have observed in myself? This time I am focused on drawing diagrams with the pencil, drawing diagrams accurately, labeling them, and then again adding case studies, then facts, more facts, examples. These type of thing will help to substantiate your answer, and your answer also look good, and it will help you to fetch more marks. So considering the preparation of analytical, the question quality of the UPSC, the traditional preparation won't suffice now. Traditional preparation in the sense that you are reading just every content as a plain content, and if you are not able to apply your knowledge in that, as the question, one question was federal supremacy, the question was federal supremacy. To address such type of question, you have to apply your knowledge. Then again, this question they asked about the in NIA in the current challenges and they ask that the current amendments, so you have to interlink them. So if you are just writing the amendments and if you are not interlinking with the current security challenges, your answer is incomplete. So to address the what happened many times, there are every student try to write 20 questions, but what is the difference between everyone? Because some people will get 470 480 marks in GS, and some people will get 360 370 marks. So why there is a gap of 100 marks in the marks of the people, considering that both are writing 20 questions? So the difference is the difference of the quality. So why there is a difference of quality? If you are not addressing the demand of the question, as the question, the understanding of the question will become difficult. To understand the question and writing exactly to the demand of the question is the need of the hour now. To understand the question and to write the question in that given particular time is a humongous task, and to excel yourself in that, you have to practice and practice and practice. Join in a test series or write 5 question 10 question at home every day. That will help you to score more marks. So I think just don't read at the same time, read and apply your knowledge. Think over that. If you are reading, let's say if you are reading center state relation, then think over any question or see the past year UPSC question and try to apply that knowledge. That will be more helpful. So I think UPSC is going to be more analytical in future years also. So if you develop such bent of mind, that will be more helpful in future exam of the UPSC. So I will say for any future attempts or any future aspirants, you have to analyze the situation, you have to think over that. Just don't read that बस रट्टा मारने से अभी कुछ होने वाला नहीं है. You have to think over that, right? By thinking only you can develop the ability to write those questions very efficiently. So this is as advice from me. Write more practice. The more you practice, the more you will be write the answer very efficiently. So this is main and serious advice from me, and all the best to everyone for their next attempt. Thank you.